Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric, Heat and Air. Once again with the show You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. And I'm sitting here in our Auburn office, and I've got Mr. Dan Foss, one of our plumbers and the head of our plumbing or drain cleaning department, our newly formed drain cleaning department. I guess it's been going for 2.5 months now.
Oh, it's actually 4 months.
4 months. Oh my
Time
gosh.
flies when you're having fun, man.
Yeah. I can't keep track of all the stuff that's going on here at ABT. It just keeps getting bigger and more people. And we've got Rosalie working as the what do you call it, producer, but she's going to be muted out this time just because she's actually here in California, or no, she's always in California. She's actually here in Auburn in the other room, but there's a big lag, so it's a little difficult. Technical stuff. In any event, she's here as well, and so kind of our little, our banter. We kind of have a little banter beforehand, and you came in limping this morning.
Oh, good Lord. Thank God this is radio.
Yeah.
I go out and play soccer with a bunch of kids and high schoolers and all that stuff. No big deal. I go play pickleball for the first time and I rip a muscle in my leg. Oh, dear Lord.
And it was funny because my wife and I were just reading an article about how pickleball is causing more urgent care visits than any other sports right now. Like for the past decade, pickleball is like number one for.
Well, it's probably because there's
injuries.
A lot of older people playing it.
Exactly.
Like myself.
Yeah. No, I've been playing.
You just say you were going to go out?
I play with some friends. I try to get out at least once a week and play pickleball with them. We call it giggleball because it's more just kind of fun. I do have two friends that are very competitive in it, but they'll let me play with them once a week, not anymore. But yeah, I had one where I dove for the ball, ended up on the ground, but I did get it over the net, and it was in. Everything was perfect, and from the ground, I got the return, and from the ground, I managed to get my racket onto the ball and return it. Unfortunately, it went out, but that was the hit of the day or the hit of the game, and it was getting dark by that point. So we ended up calling it a game, but it's a fun game, right?
It was my first time playing. I was having a blast. I was out there for like an hour and 45 minutes. Not because of all the soccer, I wasn't even winded.
Right.
But
it's different muscles.
But oh man, I heard that pop in my leg, and I was like, oh, I'm done. I literally ate the pavement. I was done. But I do have to say, since we have this chance, you had ABT got to sponsor my soccer team.
Yeah.
And we were so thankful for that. And it helped us buy some camera equipment to be able to see what we were doing and areas we needed to improve. And I could think of one of my players, Josh, who would literally study everything that he did right and everything that he did wrong
from the video.
And from the video. And by the end of the season, he's the smallest guy on the team.
Yeah.
And by the end of the season, he was one of our most valuable players.
That's awesome.
Where before he was getting beat all the time in defense, he was actually learning how to do what he was doing wrong,
right?
And do things right based on that video and that camera work.
And
I have him next year.
Yeah.
So
and let everybody know who you're coaching for.
I'm the varsity. Yeah, I'm the varsity high school soccer coach for the Sale and Godoti high schools. So Sale and Godoti are both really, really small schools. Right. So they combined their two schools for sports, which in and of itself has its own challenges, because if you have kids coming from two different schools, it's hard to make them one team.
Right. You don't have that tribe kind of.
Right. Exactly. Right. But I will tell you this, in all the years of coaching and playing and everything else, I've never seen a group of kids have such a hard season and never give up.
Yeah.
Keep going. Learn, grow after every game, and literally keep improving despite the odds. And
that's awesome.
And a lot of it had to do with the having that camera equipment, and the ability to see what was going on. And I think the other part of it was just knowing that there was a company out there or somebody out there that said, we believe in you, and I'm willing to put some money behind.
And you guys are, it's a small group. It's a small school, so you're going up against like NU, right? And you're going up against.
Well, we didn't go against NU. They're awfully bigger. Quite a bit bigger than us. But we.
So are you going up against the other high schools?
Well, yes, there are other high schools. It's Forest Lake Christian is one here in Auburn. We have most of the rest of them are in Sacramento, but Futures, they ended up winning the league, and are a very good team.
Right.
Delta, um, Victory Christian. There are a bunch of schools, but by far we are the smallest.
Yeah.
And then we were building something from scratch. I
Right.
mean, literally, our team had never played together before.
Right.
Literally, we've been playing for 2.5 months,
Right.
and the season just ended. But they came a long way in 2.5 months.
Awesome.
It was a great building year, and I had coaches come up to me afterwards and go, the amount of improvement from game one when we played these guys to game two was astronomical.
That's
and
fantastic.
They said, you guys are going to be a powerhouse to be dealt with in the next 3 to 5 years.
That's
if you
great.
guys keep this up. So
That's great.
that's my goal. My goal is to build a program, not just, be a coach. And so I tell my kids all the time, I said, I knew this year was going to be hard. I didn't take this job because I thought it was going to be easy. I took it because I knew it was going to be hard.
Right.
But the best things in life are always hard.
They can be, yeah, and just to let everybody else know, I mean, like, you don't have a kid on the team. I mean, you're just doing this out of the love of the sport and the love of.
Well, I hopefully will. I hopefully will on the girls' side, because my daughter goes to school.
Okay.
So I will hopefully on the girls' side if we have enough girls and everything else, which we're striving toward and getting ready, now toward that season, which is in the spring. But yeah, no, I don't have a boy on the team or anything else. But I really kind of miss the guys. It's yesterday was the first day without a practice or whatever else, and I'm kind of
season's
going,
over, right?
I'm kind of going, what do I do? So I go play pickleball, and then I hurt my leg. So what can you do?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Well, you just got to keep it up, right? I mean, like anything, like you say, anything in life is not necessarily easy, and keeping yourself in shape and keeping moving is, will help you succeed in life, to live longer. I know I've got a lot of friends. I've got a couple doctor friends, and one in particular, he's always telling me, just keep moving, just keep moving, just keep moving. He sees, he does sports medicine and pain relief, and he's a physiatrist, a non-surgical orthopedic doctor. But so he deals a lot with the joints and a lot with, people that have gotten older and are, having issues with mobility and such. And the thing that he sees most often is just people stop moving.
Yep. And then that's it.
And that's it. And it's this really slippery slope. So just keep moving.
What do they say? Things in motion want to stay in motion.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good you're out there and just keep it up. And pickleball is not, it is easy, but it can beat you up really bad. I know.
So I found out.
Yeah. I played last week and I went home and my back was screaming. Unfortunately, it didn't go out, so I managed to wake up the next day feeling okay. But that night, I went to bed early. I couldn't sit on the couch. My back was in such bad shape. But working in this industry, I've kind of thrown my back out a few times. So yeah, go figure. Anyway, so keep moving. That's great. So the reason why you guys come to the show is to listen to DIY do's and don'ts. And I thought we'd bring Dan on to talk about some plumbing DIY do's and don'ts. I've been out of the field now for 15 years. And I do remember trying to help somebody learn something. I don't know, this is probably 10 years ago. And I was teaching somebody how to replace a gas control on a water heater. And one of our technicians, Paul, came up after I taught the guy how to do it. He's like, dude, we haven't done it like that for like 5 years.
You just take the face off, put the new face on.
Yeah. I was telling him how to actually unscrew the whole.
You got to drain down the heater.
Exactly. I mean, it was total old school, right? So I didn't know there was you just take. Yeah. Anyway, things have changed. So good to have somebody that's actually abreast of what's going on out in the field. So I thought I'd go over a couple. We just got a list here. We're going to do a quickie DIY do's and don'ts on some plumbing DIY stuff.
All right.
So how repairing a kitchen faucet, a dripping kitchen faucet, what should we do?
Well, first thing you ought to do is once you burn the house down. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. So the first thing you do is you turn the water off, get some tools, turn the water off, try to figure out how to take it apart. All of them are different. Right. Whether they're single cartridges or two-handled valves or whatever, but
right. And isn't it like the first thing is trying to figure out how to take the handle off?
Yeah.
9 times, that is like one of the hardest things this day and age, because every handle can be different. Sometimes there's a hidden Allen screw. Sometimes there's a screw on the top. Sometimes there's no screw at all. They just pop on. So
they can be difficult. But you take it apart, and at that point in time, make sure you do this. First of all, don't do this late in the evening. You want to start early in the day, because especially if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you're not familiar with all these things. You want to be able to put things back together. Take pictures is a good thing as well. But get the water off, take it apart, and then once you get the cartridges out or washers or whatever's going on, take it to a plumbing supply house or one of the box stores and see if they know what type of cartridges is, or the parts to replace it, and then come back with the right parts and replace it. If they don't, well, while you're there, just go pick up a new faucet. It's probably easier just to replace the faucet. Most faucets nowadays, you're looking at 3 to 5 years, some maybe 8 if they're better faucets. Every once in a while, you get some that can last up to 15.
Yeah,
but a lot of it depends on your water quality, whether you're on a well. So there's a lot of variables, but but usually people get sick of seeing them after about 8 years anyway.
The aesthetics change.
You might want to think about just replacing it.
Styles change, and
they're also harder to find parts.
Yeah, and when you're looking at the faucet too, make sure if it doesn't have a name on it. I personally, we kind of have a standing thing in our shop, and correct me if I'm wrong, because now you're managing the departments. If it doesn't have a name on it, I'm not even going to really try to even look for the parts.
Yeah, it's hard, especially if it's not one you recognize.
Yeah,
because oftentimes it's a Home Depot special type thing, and you just it at that point in time, finding the parts for it and everything else ain't worth it. You might as well just go ahead and relax it.
Yeah, and if it's a company that is a quality product, they're going to put their name on it.
Yep.
And if it's not, but even then, gosh, even the like I know I've been educated on purchasing like a Delta or a Moen faucet from Home Depot, and they'll actually have non-Delta or Moen bits.
Well, yeah, they make them cheaper to hit a price point versus plumbing supply houses that actually have better quality faucets. You'll pay a little bit more, but they'll last a little longer.
Yeah.
So just things to think about.
Yeah, good stuff. Stop leaky joints. How do you stop a leaky joint? So let's say,
this is stop a painful one. How's that?
Advil. Yeah. my
Which reminds
choice.
Me. Yeah. I need some relief.
Yeah.
Leaky joints. Well,
it's kind of broad, but let's say you got a leaky a P-trap underneath your sink.
Yeah, P-trap. Yeah, those are fairly easy. Most of the time, they're tubular traps. You can go to the hardware store, or like I said, any of the box stores or plumbing supply house, and get the parts for that. But easiest thing to do is because sometimes there's, especially if it's like under a kitchen sink, you might have a configuration above the P-trap that you're also replacing. So take pictures.
Yeah.
Again, those are very helpful, especially now that it's so easy with the phone.
Yeah.
But take a picture and then take it apart, and then take the parts into your local plumbing supply house or whatever else, and they'll help you get
those flat. They'll help you for sure.
Yeah, and get everything you need and put it back together. Sometimes you have to cut the tubular to make it match and all that stuff. But fairly easy.
One thing to remember:
make sure you put a bucket under it though when you take the trap apart.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to make a mess. So it's good to have rags, a bucket, things like that to do all that. And then when you're done, this is one thing I do to test, especially at a kitchen sink. Let's say you have a P-trap, or you've done some drain work down there. You want to test it to make sure everything's good. What I do is I fill up the water in the garbage disposal side. Yeah. I fill it up with water, and I turn on the garbage disposal. It'll act like a pump, and it'll put pressure against those joints. And if it isn't going to leak under that pressure, you're good.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to test it, especially at a kitchen sink.
Yeah. And one thing, we call those joints underneath the sink, the tubular fittings, those are called slip joints for a reason, so that we can configure them to different things. But it's literally just a washer that is putting pressure. It's being compressed between a nut and the flange or the flare,
the wall of the pipes,
the wall of the pipe, to hold the seal. So they will move, and you got to make sure that the lengths of the pipe are long enough. Because I've seen so many times where like
It's holding
the
on by
tail,
a quarter of an
the
inch
tail
and it blows
piece,
apart.
the tail piece is only into the throat of the P trap by like a quarter inch, and then all it takes is one nudge and it starts leaking. You want to make sure that tail piece, the tail piece being the piece that comes from the basket strainer that goes into the P trap, you want to make sure that it's as deep as it possibly can go with still having grade on the pipe.
Well, the other thing I see oftentimes where they had an issue with heights on the wall going out the wall,
Right.
and so they reversed the P trap.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And those blow out all the time, and they're wondering why. And it's like, well, your P trap's in reverse. You can't. There is only one way to install a P trap,
right?
And you do it any other way, just expect to ruin your cabinets.
And I'll explain that. I'll explain that a little bit. So the P trap is, we've talked a lot about the P trap on this show. P trap is what has saved millions of lives. It keeps the sewer gases and the pests that are in the sewer from getting into the house. So the flies that are landing on the nastiness that's inside the pipes don't land on your food. And it also keeps the sewer gases out of your house. So it's a very important thing. But you want to maintain that trap seal. But with slip joints, with tubular fittings, we're only allowed one joint to be underwater. And what happens typically is they'll remodel or they'll put a disposer in, and we have to make that P trap deeper, and we'll double up, or we'll flip the trap around. Now all of a sudden we have 2 to 3 different joints that are underwater, and that's why you typically have the problem. Because the joints that are underwater aren't designed to be underwater; they are actually slip joints. Whereas the joint that is at the weir of the trap, or at the J part and the U part, is actually a ground joint and not a washer, so that it's a much stronger, much better connection, and that's designed to stay underwater. The others are not. So don't try to finagle it by flipping the trap around.
Yep.
You're just asking for problems down the line, and it's not code for a reason. All right, finding sneaky leaks. This is, let's do an easy one. While we were just talking about that, let's say you got a toilet that water's showing up on the ground and it's intermittent. It only happens every once in a while. What are some good ways to try to diagnose where that water's coming from?
Well, the first thing I do when I run across a toilet in that manner that's leaking is everybody thinks, oh, it's on the floor, it's at the base. You got to pull and reset the toilet. Not necessarily.
Right.
Sometimes the leak is actually caused from the tank to bowl gasket or the bolts that hold the tank to the bowl. And so what I do is I put my hands behind the toilet, because sometimes it'll go right down the very back of the toilet, and so you don't see it. Yeah, you don't see it.
Yeah.
But you pull the toilet and it's like, it looks fine, and then you find out it was actually a tank to bowl.
Right.
But yeah, feel for the leak first. Start high, work your way down. The other thing we do is you can use toilet paper to kind of put between the tank and the bowl, and when you pull it out, you as you know, toilet paper really sucks up water,
right?
And you can see it wick that water out. And if you see water there, there's a problem between the tank and the bowl. At that point in time, you're going to need to replace the tank to bowl gasket, the bolts, those type of things, which really ought to be done on a toilet probably about every 5 to 8 years anyway.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, they say flappers, things like that, about every 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, and particularly, if you're on well water, it's going to last a little longer than if you're on city water because of the chlorine and the chlorines. And while we were talking about replacing the faucet, you might want to think about replacing the toilet while you're at it. It's weird, but sometimes it's easier just to replace it with a new one than it is to fix the old one. And by the time you start adding up the amount of time that you're spending, depending on what you value your time at, a new toilet's going to cost you about $200 for a quality toilet, and that's going to be with the wax ring and the toilet seat, everything that's ready, other than the supply.
And now we're bringing them up into reality. It's about 300.
About 300
for a good one.
Okay,
but anyway,
so sometimes it's easier just to replace it, and then the toilets actually will wear out. It's weird. We've seen toilets that get clogged up inside the jets, and will have a poor flush because the sediments in the water. Yeah. Also, if it was a toilet that was, if you got a 20-year-old toilet, you might as well just replace it. The technology has gotten so much better.
Save water.
It'll save water, and they flush so much better. I know, we're in a rental right now, and if I could talk to the landlord into replacing the toilet, I would, because it's a double flusher pretty much every time. And it should just be replaced, but I don't know the property.
Here's a good one for sneaky leaks. Have you ever been laying in your bed and you're just enjoying the nice peace and quiet, and all of a sudden you hear your toilet turn on?
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't even flush it.
Yeah.
And you're going like, what the heck is going on? Well, most likely what's happening is, because there's no water on the ground, water is leaking from inside the bowl down into the tank, and then it's having to refill.
Right.
So what you do, if you're wondering if that's the case or if that's actually happening, take food coloring and put it inside the tank, and then come back 30 minutes later and see if any of that food coloring is in the bowl. If you do that, you have a problem. Most likely it's a flapper.
With a flapper, yeah.
And then you have a fairly easy fix and a way to diagnose that.
Yeah. What are some other causes of that?
What?
Water running in the toilet at night.
Well, usually it's because the water's dropping down through the it could also be going around the flush valve. Not as common. The other thing I've seen is where the fill valve is actually going. It's going over the tube.
And it's siphoning.
And it's siphoning down.
Yeah. I gave him a softball, but he didn't catch it. So the other issue could be you don't have a thermal expansion tank installed. And you have a pressure reducing valve on your house. And as water, what typically happens is at night, our water, you take a shower or you take a tub before going to bed, and then the cold water, especially in the wintertime, fills the water heater. And as the water heater heats that water up, it expands and it has nowhere to go. So it builds water pressure inside the system. And one of the easiest places for it to leak out is through the fill valve, if it doesn't have an expansion tank. The other issue could be that you just have high water pressure and you don't have a pressure reducing valve. Our plumbing systems are designed to work within parameters of 40 psi at its low end and 80 psi at its high end. So we typically want to be somewhere in the middle. We typically like to be at 50 to 60 psi is kind of a nice sweet spot. Anything higher or lower is going to potentially be problems. But particularly if you get over 80 psi, you're really going to have problems. It's kind of like running your car on redline. If you've got a car that redlines at 4,000 RPMs and you're running at 6,000 RPMs, you're going to eventually blow that engine up. Yep. The same sort of thing happens with our plumbing systems. Or, I kind of, through our training, we're always talking about what's the first thing a doctor does, whether you go in for a broken leg or a cold, they check your water pressure. We always check water pressure on the house. So
they don't check your water pressure; they check your blood pressure.
They check your blood pressure. Did I say blood pressure?
No, you said water pressure. But that's all right.
Sorry,
I don't know about you, but I have blood in me. Yeah. But whatever.
So we gotta wrap this up. I just got the cue from our producer. We got to wrap this thing up. So anyway, if you need any plumbing, electrical, heating, or air work done, you can reach us at 530-230-9092, 530-230-9092. You can find us on the web at abtplumbing.com. We've also got some incredible deals going on right now. $49 HVAC tune-up, $49 water heater flush, $49 electrical inspection. And we have a $97 drain cleaning. Any drain in your house, residential, single occupied, not culverts, sewage, water, drainage, we will clear it. Or if we don't clear it, it's free. Give us a call at 530-230-9092. And thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
Yeah. Thank you.